This is the code that Mani is asking for the explanation. Okay, so we have an array. It's like a list. Okay, so we want to sort it using reduce command. So what we are doing, we have written a lambda function. Okay, and we are reading this array. B is the empty list that he is passing and A is the array. So A will get 17. So if X is less than equal to B, so what is B here? B is nothing. Okay, it doesn't make any sense for X in A if X is less than equal to B. Mani, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but if you just simply want to sort a list, there are better ways of doing it. Okay, so here, just understand that this element will be A, this element, the elements in this will be A, this will be B. Okay, so for X in A, if X less than B plus okay, so here it is giving me an invalid index. Yes, first iteration, B will be empty, exactly. Hardeep, yes, for initially what I told you, you should only pass one list in reduce. You can pass multiple, but then things will become very complex. So as you're starting, just try one thing only. And here, I don't know what he is trying to do, but I think he's trying to do a sorting of the list. And it's giving me a syntax error here. Okay. Mani, is that if it's okay, if I can look at this code later on, fix the syntax error and then explain? Please put this question in the discussion forum. I think Upgrade has given you access to that. I will I'll look into this code and correct it and then probably give the explanation there. Okay, great. Okay, anything else? Any other question concept-wise, people? Okay, great. So yes, probably you did not find much time to look at the things we covered yesterday, but please please find some time to practice all these things during this week, and you can Upgrade must give you they must have given you some channel of communication where you can post your queries even after today's session, and somebody will give you answers and clear your doubts there. Okay, great. Where we can use particular map filter concepts, Mani, as explained yesterday, if you have a list or a collection of elements, and if you want to apply some logic on each element of the list, you use map because it's a faster, efficient way of doing things. Okay, filter you use when you want to apply some condition on each element of the list, and based upon that condition, you want to filter out things. So these are the very simple explanation where you should use map and filter. Okay, for example, let's say you have a list of names, okay, and you want to find out length of each name. So you want to apply a logic on each element of the list. In that scenario, you will use map. Could not get any satisfactory answer in documentation. np.quantile. Tuhin, np is for numpy library and quantile give you the percentiles. So quantile is, let's say I give you a test and you get scores out of 100 on that. Okay, so np.quantile1 will give you 25th percentile. So whatever value you get, 25% students are getting score lower than that, 75% getting more than that. Similarly, second quantile, if you give, it is median. So 50% are above, 50% people have scored below it. And then the third quantile, which is the 75th percentile. Okay, so quantile give you 25th percentile, quantile 1 is 25th, quantile 2 is median, quantile 3 is 75th percentile. Tuhin, hope this is, it has helped solving your query. Everybody, please ask your question to all panelists and attendees. Okay, so that everybody understood it. Okay, great. Padamja, this black patch is the chat window, which I have to keep open so that I can answer your queries. Don't worry, it is not gonna hide anything important. I'll keep moving it here and there. Great. Okay, so let's start with today's topic, people. Okay, so first we will start with where am I? Okay, so I want to find out my current working directory. So for that, I'm gonna use a library called OS. I'm gonna import that. And then I'm gonna use one of its methods called getCwd. So get my current working directory. So where am I? I will be where I have created this Jupyter notebook. And right now I am in this directory. C, users, arena, documents, upgrade, Python crash course, and this. Okay. And as you have noticed, Python, instead of 1/ that we usually see in Windows, it has converted it to 2 slashes. That is how Python reads it. So that's okay. Okay. So we are in this working directory. Let's say I want to find out what are the different files in this current working directory. So there are a few commands to do that. So os.list directory. It is similar to writing dir in DOS or writing ls in Unix, which will give you a listing of all the files and folders in your current directory. So these are all the files existing in my current directory. Okay, let's learn a few more things. So let's say I want to create a new directory in this directory. So what I can do, I can write os.mkdir, make directory. Okay, let's create a new directory, my dir. So a new directory with this name will be created in this particular directory. So let's do that and let's see if it has created this directory by doing os.list directory. And if you can see, this my directory has been created in this directory. Let's go to this new directory. Okay, so you can do that by saying chdr, change directory, where my dir. And if I now look os.getcwd, now I am in my directory. Yes, directory and folder are same thing, Abdullah. When I say directory, it means the same thing as a folder. Okay, so this is I'm right now I am in my directory. Let's go back to the previous directory. How can I do that? Again, os.change directory. Now there are various ways of putting the path name here. I can put the path name like this. Okay, with double slash. Just remember, when you're specifying the path, you have to put double slashes instead of one slash. You can do it like this. You can do it like, so there are various ways. This is the absolute path. You can give relative path also, means I can say, go back to the previous directory, to its parent directory. And if you know, 2 dots stand for going to the parent directory. 2 dots refer parent directory. So I can give this way also, then go to the previous one. I can also give it, go to the grandparent one, and there go to the Python, and then within that go to some other folder. So I can mix and match relative and absolute path names also. Stephen, it's gonna recreate every time you run the cell. So you have to be careful. Okay, so if you keep saying run this cell again and again, make directory, every time it's gonna overwrite the existing directory. Yes, data is going to be lost. So just be careful. You know, we hardly use these commands as a data analyst, but even if we have to do, make sure that, you know, the logic is, you know, don't run this cell again and again. Okay, so again, you can use absolute path name or a relative path name. Okay, so let me try running this. Okay, and let's say, where am I now? And I'm back to MLC27 April 21 folder. So this is how you can move among different directories. Yes, the similar commands, Sharath, the concept will remain same. Probably the path name will vary depending upon you know, the Unix operating system directory structure, but the underneath concept will remain the same. Satyam, for that you have to build the logic, that you have to check if the directory exists. Okay, then do not create it. So you have to put if then else statement, and then check if that you can save this list directory in a list, and then check if my directory already exists in this list. Do not create it, print that it already exists, else create it. So you have to build the logic for that. Again, you can save this in a list and then can check whether the file exists or not. Satya, hope this is clear. Tuhin, I think more or less this concept will remain the same for Mac and Unix. A little bit of change here and there. You just check it, you know, the how to do it with the Mac or with Linux. It's minor changes will be there. Otherwise, the concept will remain the same. Great. because the Linux structure works like that. Naisha, just search for how to get full directory name in Linux on net and you will get the command for that. Okay, great. So as we can create a directory, we should be able to remove a directory. So for that, the command is rmdir, remove directory. Just be careful while using this command because it's going to remove that folder without giving any warnings, even if there is data inside it. So just be a little careful while using this. Again, you can build a logic, ask for confirmation, and then only remove it. That also you can do, but you have to build the logic for that. And now if you see, this directory is gone, os.list.dir, and my directory is gone. Yes, Khalid, you can move, right? You can change directory. You can open this Jupyter notebook. You know, wherever this Jupyter notebook is, initially it's going to give you that current directory. But you can move among directories using change directory. Okay, so these are some of the basic commands for directories. Let's now move to dealing with files. How can I move a file from one directory to other directory? There must be a command for that. Yes, just search for it. Okay, search for how you can move a directory from to another directory. You will find something to do that. Okay, so try it on you. Rename in a bit, Hardeep. It's just the rename command. Okay, os.rename. I'll just show you in a bit. Okay, so let's say pretend you have a file named example.txt. I have already created this file in my current directory, example.txt, and I have 4 lines in it, hello world and I say goodbye. It's a text file. So I'm starting with this only. You can create any file, okay, for you know, just starting for the beginners, just go with a very simple file. Okay, if you do not have this file, just create one and write these lines. Now let me show you how we can open this file in Jupyter Notebook. So I will say open, simple, and then because this file is in my current working directory, I can give it simply like this, example.txt. If this file is not in my directory, let's say in some other directory, I can give the full path name. Let's say it's in C Python, so I can give this path name. Let's say if it's in a parent directory and one more directory above it, I can give it like this also. Okay, right now it's in my current directory, so I'll just give it like this. And then it's going to return a file object. I'm saving it in a variable called my file. And then just run it. If you look at the type of my file, it's going to say it's a text input output wrapper. It's a file object. Okay, now this file object has many methods, as we have seen for strings, lists, other things. So my file dot, if you see, it has these many methods. Okay, I'm going to talk about few of them, important ones. Okay, let's try the first one. So my file dot name, it's going to give you the name of the file to which it is referring. Okay, so it's going to give me example.txt. I can also call it in which mode we have opened it. Okay, so again, we can open the files in many modes. Read mode, write mode, append mode, and I'm going to talk about all of these in details. Let's just check. By default, it opens it read mode. So it's going to tell me R. R means it's the read mode. Okay, and then we can also check whether this file is closed or open. When we are opening a file and we have read it or we have written in it, it is the best practice to close it after you are done with the file, because if you do not, it keeps hanging there. It's not properly closed. It can get corrupted, and there may be some errors. So it is always a good practice to close the file after you are done with it. Okay, so now this method will help you to figure it out whether the file is closed or still open. Okay, so my file dot close will tell you whether the file is open or closed. So if I run it, it's false. It means the file is not closed, it is still open. Okay, when you have written some data in it, only when you close the file, the changes become permanent in the file. Okay, so it is always a good idea to close the file after you are done with it, and this is the method to do that. My file dot close will close the file. Now it will not get corrupted or anything, and if you run this method again, now this is going to tell you it's true, the file has been properly closed. Yes. Okay. Yes. So Naisha, a good question. So remember yesterday we created our own class, employee. It has some attributes. It has methods. If you remember, what were the attributes? Fname, Lname, sal, email, those were the attributes which we were calling without parentheses because we have defined it in init function. And there was some methods also, if you remember, full name. We were calling it with parentheses. Okay, this is how these things were defined in class. Similarly, mode, name are defined as in the init function, and they serve as attributes. But for close with parentheses, they have defined a new function with def. That's why this is the function. We call it like this. These are the attributes and we call it like this. And if you want to figure it out, what are the attributes and what are the methods, you can always give this command dir my file. If you run it, it's going to give you first some built-in things. Don't worry about it. But when you go here, okay, it's going to tell you that, oh, okay, so it doesn't tell you. So these are all the attributes and methods. So it doesn't tell you right away about this, what are attributes and what are methods. But with practice, you will come to know. Okay, but anyway, you can always figure it out whether I need to give parentheses or not. If you are confused, what I want you to do Shift tab. It will show you whether it's a method or an attribute. Here it is showing it's a method. If you look at this, it's help. There is no parenthesis here. It's just calling Boolean. So you understand that it's an attribute. Yes, Stephen. So some functionality is provided in form of attributes, some are in form of methods. So with practice, you will come to know which are, which commands to use for which functionality. Okay, you can also look at, the help. So if you look at file object in Python, okay, so file object attributes in Python, file object methods in Python, you can look at all of these things. So they have, so you will get a lot of help. So these are the attributes. So these are the methods and these are the attributes for the file object in Python. So just search for it and you will get a lot of help on these things. No, Naisha, describe will always be with parentheses in pandas. I'll talk about it in a bit. So there, I don't think there are, with the same name, there can be a method and attribute. Okay, so Shreya, attributes are not like class object. Object is the whole thing. So my file is an file object. Okay, and name, closed, mode are its attributes. If you remember from our yesterday's class, employee was a class, emp1 was an object, and fname was an attribute. Okay, so let me just show you that from yesterday's class, people. Okay, so you remember we created these class. So employee is a class, emp1 is a class object, fname is an attribute, okay, and full name is a method. Here it is clear. Class, object, attribute, method. Okay, great. Let's move forward, people. So these are the some of the methods and attributes. As you start programming, coding, you will get used to which are the most important attributes and methods, and you'll come to know, okay, here I have to put parentheses, here I need not to. Okay, let's move forward. Now we have opened this file. Now let me show you how you can read data from it. Default, when you open a file, it opens in read mode. Okay, so let me open the file again. Open example.txt. I can leave it, I can give it like this, R. So if you look at the help of open, shift tab, okay, you will see that it has mode as R by default. R means read. But if you scroll down, you will see that, okay, in write mode, in append mode, in read and write mode, in read and binary mode, changing it like this. No, Hardeep, append will not create new file if it doesn't exist. Only write does that. Shruti, make sure that you are not making any syntax error. Okay, so these are the various modes. Okay, so let's first read a file. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I have to read a file, I have to open it. So I have already opened it. So my file, and then I'm gonna simply do my file dot read. That's it. And then because I'm done reading it, it's a good practice to close it. So I'm gonna do that. Okay. When I'm reading it, if I want to put it on the screen, I have to definitely here give the print command, because my file dot close output will be overwritten, will overwrite this one. So it's a good practice to give a print command here so that the output of this command is shown on the screen. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so the read command reads the whole file and prints it with a print command on the screen. Okay, let's say if you are doing some low level programming and if you want to only read a few bytes, let's say only 5 bytes, here 1 byte means 1 character. Okay, so you can do that by putting 5 here. So it's going to read only 5 bytes and you're going to get only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only hello from it. The same thing will work for CSV also. I'll show you CSV in a bit. Okay, so here I'm just giving a read command, my file dot read, and it's going to read the whole thing. Abdullah, this is the only thing that I told here. Hardeep, it can be very large. You can give a very large number of bytes here and it will do the same. Okay, so no problem here. Okay, so if you don't give any size, it's going to read the whole thing. Sometimes we want to read one line at a time. For that, we use another command called read line. So we're going to write the same thing, but instead of read, let's say do read line. And it's going to give me only one line. $500,000 is in bytes. Everything is in bytes, Hardeep. Everything is in bytes. So if you read the help of it, oh, not this one. So if you see my file dot read and you look at the help of it, oh, you can't look at this like this, but it's in bytes. Okay. So read line will read one line at a time. Okay, if you give one more line here, it's going to read the 2 lines. No, read line 5 will still read 5 bytes only. So 5 bytes, 5 bytes. 5 bytes and then another line. Okay, so this is how the read line works. And finally, the read lines. Read lines will read all the lines in one go and put it as elements of a list. Okay, read lines will read all the lines and put it as a list, as an element of lists. Khalid, Read CSV, I'm coming to that. That doesn't work with open. That is a pandas command, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Just wait. All these commands are under general built-in commands, Stephen. I have not started talking about Panda yet. These are the built-in commands. We are not using any library here. No, you cannot do that. If you pass anything to read line, it takes it as bytes. People just remember. It takes it as bytes. You cannot read 2 lines. You have to write the 2 lines like this. Read line, read line. Yes, Hardeep, yes. Again, people here, I'm just showing you these commands only for your knowledge purpose. We hardly use these low-level commands to read files. Later on, I'm going to tell you about Pandas libraries where things are much easier to work with. Still, you should know about what is going on behind those advanced commands, people. That's why I'm telling you all about these. Just remember, in real life, you will hardly use these commands in this form. Okay, because these are not very efficient or user-friendly way of reading things. Imagine there's a 1 million rows. These commands in a raw form will not help. But it's important to understand these commands, which will be used underneath the advanced command that we usually use. Okay, so here it's taking even the last, even the new line character and putting it as at the end of the element. Okay, so let's say there is a requirement to read a specific line from a file. Again, people, I'm just showing you for your knowledge purpose. In Pandas, this is just a 1-line command to read a specific line. But here, because these are the raw commands, very low level, we have to build the logic to read a specific line. Let's say I want to read a line number 3. Okay, so what I'll do, I will open a file, my file, open example.txt. Okay, I'll set another variable. So current line is 1. Okay, so by default, the first line, I'm taking it as the line 1 because my cursor will be there. So I'm writing for line in my file. Okay, so in the first iteration, line will be the first line of the file. So I'll say if current line is equal to line number, means I have reached the 3rd line, print it, break the loop because I have read my line which I wanted to read. Otherwise, go to the next line. Okay, and then finally close the file. Yes, we can use plus equal also. Hardik, I'm glad that now you know these shortcut ways also. Okay, let's run it. And you will get the 3rd line, I say. Oh, you can use that also, Hardeep. Here, the for loop will automatically taking me to the next line. So whenever in the second iteration, the control will automatically go to the second line. That's why. Stephen, have you defined this? Line number is equal to 3. Make sure that there is no syntax error or anything. You can work with Hardeep, read lines also. You can write the logic using read lines also. Okay, so this is again not a very user-friendly way of reading one line, so 10 lines of code, but don't worry, I'll show you to do the same thing with one command in pandas. But that one command behind the scene, similar code they are running. So it's important to understand this also. Yes, it can be done in comprehension also, various ways of doing the same thing. Yes, you can do whatever you can do in lists. You can store this thing in a list and do whatever you want with these elements. No, Stephen, these are just variable names. These are nothing. I can change it to L. And these are not keywords, people. These are just variable names. Do not get confused. I'm just using these as variable names. So in for loop, it takes the file object. With every iteration, it moves to the next line, like that. Okay, Stephen, these are not keywords. These are just the name of the variables. Okay, great. Now, these were the commands which were there for a very long time. Poonam, yes, you can do that. But recently they have come up with a new command for file handling called with. Let's try to understand that also. They thought that every time we have to close the file and sometimes we forget to write this command, then there is a chance that file can get corrupted. So they have given this new command to us to open and close file. It's a better way, it's a cleaner way to read the file. Let's try that. So remember how we were reading a file? We were opening it, we were reading it, we were closing it. Okay, 3 lines of code. But if we miss this third line, it's a problem. So what they have said, do this. Instead of opening the file with that command, open it with this. With open example.txt read mode as my file. And then whatever you want to do inside it, you can do it. Let's say print my file dot read. And as soon as you come out of this loop, file will automatically get closed. Okay, so run it. And it's going to do exactly what we've been doing before, but this time we need not to specifically close the file. We need not to remember to put that command there. It will automatically closes it, and it will not get corrupted. Okay, so with open as my file will be a file object having this data, and then you can write here read lines, whatever I have told you. You can do all of that. As soon as you come out of this loop, it's gonna. Oh, can somebody tell me why read lines gave me the blank list? Hardeep, how to read an image and PDF? You cannot do it with this raw form. You have to read it in binary format. But later on, we will teach you to use specific libraries which were written for reading PDF and image files. Yes, Abhijit, you are correct, people. The reason is when I'm reading, at the end of this command, my cursor is at the end of the file. And if when I try to read lines from there, there's nothing there. So that's why it has returned blank. Because my cursor is after E, goodbye, after E. There's nothing after that. No, Raghu, file is not closed. File gets closed when the control comes here. File is still open here. But because I'm at the end of the file, that's why it is not reading anything. Let's say I try this. Now the cursor is where? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 here. So it's going to read D as one element and now another element and so on. Let's try that. Prakash, with width, we do not use close command. As soon as the control comes out here, the file will get closed. With is a command. Hardeep, it's not a function, it's not a method, it's just a command. Remember, we have similar command del. Okay, it's a command like that. Instead of read, we can directly pass R parameter in open to start and beginning. No, even if you write it R, by default, it is taking R only. I'm not giving anything because by default, it's taking R. It will still give the same answer. Shreya? Yes, square bracket is for list. Remember, I told you read lines will put the lines in a list. Great. So these are again people, some low level commands to read data. Just for your knowledge. Believe me, you will never hopefully need to write these commands in your project because we have better advanced commands. Yes, PRM, I'll come to that. If you want to reset your starting point or you want to move your cursor here and there. Yes, Hardeep, read line will work with RB also. Don't worry about RB, that we will teach you later. Just remember that B is for binary format. Okay, great. That also. So write to a file. Let's say I'll open a file. Let's say it doesn't exist. Okay, so the good thing is write will automatically create this file test.txt. Okay, I'm saving it, this file object in F1. Okay, then I will say F1.write. Okay, hello world. Okay, and then I will say F1.close. Only when I hit close, it's gonna make the changes permanent in the file. Otherwise, data will not be written in the file. Okay, so it's important to close the file. Let's run it. Okay, so let's check in the file explorer if this file has been created. Yes, test.txt. If I open it, it has this line hello world in it. Okay, so you can check it either from here or we can check it from using our old commands that we have already taught you. Test.txt, f1.read, f1.close. Oops, I have to give print. Okay, you can write 2 lines if you want. Okay, but you have to specifically tell it that save this, write this line to the next one. So you have to say, hello world, next line, how are you? Okay, let's run it. Let's read it. And now it has written in on 2 lines. Okay. Same time, can two program write a particular file? Punya, I don't know about that. I think there must be some, locking mechanism that Python, implies, which automatically takes care of this thing. Okay. With write is present, yes. Which folder does the file get created in? Wherever this Jupyter notebook is. What if we want to write existing file? Append, use append mode. I'll show you that in a bit. Can we write and read in single sequence? Yes, we can. I'll show you that in a bit. Hardik? Okay, great. So write, okay. So if I open this file again, test.txt, again, people, have you seen the existing content will be overwritten. Okay, so if you don't want that, open it in append mode. Let me show you example of write lines also. Write lines require a list. So first let me create a list. Okay, let's say it's a fruit list, and I have to give next line thing also here if I want to put the next element on the next line. Okay. So then what I'll do, I will open the, let me create, hold on, f1 is equal to open fruits.txt, open it in read mode, f1.write lines. I'll pass it this list to it, fruits, f1.close. Okay, run it. And if you see, it has created fruits.txt and apple, orange, grapes here. Okay, so similarly, you can use with command here also to write to a file. Okay, let's try with command also. With open, let's say with.txt, open it in a write mode. Okay, as my file, you can give it any name. Okay, and let's say file, my file dot write first line. Okay, my file dot write second line. You can give it in the same line also, people. Okay, and that's it. No need to write and no need to give my file dot close. As soon as you come out of the loop, it will close it. Let's read it with open with.txt. Let me open it in a read mode as f1 or my file. You can read it anyway. Print f1 dot read. Let's run it. Stephen, if you want that, you have to store this data in some variable and then create a new file and use those variables to write data into it. Yes, we can do that. Okay, let me try to read fruits file, people. Somebody is interested in reading fruits file. No, to write Write will be only written, the data will be written only when you close the file. So if you try to read file from here, people, okay, so let's try this command again. Okay, and let's say I do not write this, I'll just try to print it from here. It will not give me anything. Okay, because it's saying input output operation on closed file. Okay, so you can only read a file. Oh, okay, so let me try to open it with W plus. Okay, so read and write. Let's try that. Oh, sorry, I have to get my file. Okay, so it's not giving you anything. Reason is the data will be written to the file only when you close it. Then only it puts the data permanently, closes the file, make sure that all the things are looking good, data is properly stored. So here the data has not been written yet and we are trying to read it. So that's why it is not reading anything. It's just saying there is nothing written in that file. Yes, if you do not give new line, it would print all on the same line. Let's try that. Sure, Abdullah. Yes, the data will be there for file, object, buffer, but you know, nothing can be done now. So, you know, if you write it, if you read this again, then it will be, you know, read, because as soon as you come out of the loop, data will be permanently written. Now you can read it. Santosh, just check. I don't think so. There is an easy way of printing the file object buffer. Again, remember, as a data analyst, do we need to worry about that? That's the, you know, the last thing on our list probably. No, not the cursor need to reset. It will not, it has not written anything until unless it comes out of it. It will not write, even if you change the cursor is still in the beginning. Okay, let's try that also, people. So there are two commands, myfile.tell. Tell will tell you where is your cursor. Okay, so let's try that. Let's print where is my cursor. So it's at 23rd line. Okay, so after writing first line and second line. Okay, let's try to change the position of the cursor, and for that, people, there is a command called seek. Let's go to the first character only in the beginning of the file, and then let's try to read from the file. Oh yes, so this works. Yes, you're right, somebody has mentioned. So people, why we are not able to read it here? Because the cursor is at the end of the file. So if you want to go in the beginning, you can do that. Good observation. I hope people are following what I'm saying. So tell command, which tell where the cursor is. Seek command will take the cursor to a position from the top. Okay, so 23 bytes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It counts new line also as a byte. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yes, so you can even read it before without closing the file. That's right. Okay, but again, people, it's always a good practice when you are reading this file again anywhere else in the code. It's always a good idea to close your file just to make sure that it is not hanging there and no corruption is happened there. Some raw data is not written, some unusual characters are not written in it. It's a good idea to close the file. Okay, so this is only where we have done the read, right? So it's all, as soon as we come out of it, data will be permanently written without any corruption. Okay, the thing that I want you to remember is not to open a file in the beginning, keep writing, keep reading, and not closing it. There is a good chance that somehow when you run this code many times, if you're not closing it, the data can get corrupted. 23 is from which command? Tell. Okay, similarly, you can append to data. Okay, using a plus. Let's quickly, let me show you that also. Remember our fruits command, fruits file, people? Okay, so let me try to add 2 more fruits to it. How can I do that? Let me open the file in an append mode now. Fruits.txt append mode. Okay, and then let me write f1.write, and I have to start with a new line if I want to write to a new line, because right now the cursor is at S, at the end of S. Okay, so let me write here guava, and then f1.write, let's say kiwi. Okay, f1.close, and let's read it again. No, not with A. When you are opening the file with A, the cursor is at S, after S. When you open it as W Prasad, the cursor is at A, then it will overwrite. Yes. Yes, Sandeep, I think so. Put the read indent, do the indentation for read command also, Sandeep. Okay, great. So this is how you can write, append to a file also. I've already explained seek and tell. Let's try renaming a file, which is again very easy. We're going to use OS library method again. So os.rename. Let's rename our fruits file. So fruits.txt to, let's say, all fruits.txt. So you can do it like this. You can rename the file like this. Okay. And if you say os.list directory, you're going to see the new file now, allfruits.txt. Okay. If you want to remove a file, again, os.remove. And let's say allfruits.txt. This is how you can remove the file. There is something called copy also. So if you want to, is it? No, there is no copy. Okay, os.copy is not there, but there must be something else to make a duplicate. Try this one. Is it a duplicate? So just try that one now. Return a duplicate of a file descriptor. Just try it out. Okay, is duplicate is the one. If no file name given means all data will be deleted. I don't think so. It's gonna complain. Can we compare the content of the files? Money, again, you can look for a command, but again, think from the data analyst point of view. Usually what we do, if you want to compare the content of two files, you just read both the files using pandas library in a very easy manner, and then you can do comparison. And we will teach you that with pandas library. Not using these low level programming, it will become a very difficult thing. Okay, so this was it. Now let's try to read and write now different formats. We were dealing with text file, and I have also taught you the basic commands. Okay, now we're gonna shift our focus to read and write to all other formats, but we're not gonna use these low level programming, low level commands, because we have now advanced commands to do the same thing, but in a very easy manner. Okay, so we're going to use pandas library now to read and write to various other formats. Okay, and instead of writing a simple lines, now we will shift our focus on the type of data that most of the time we deal with. Usually data is in the form of a table, like an Excel file, right? We have rows, we have columns. Let's say we are dealing with our customer data. So we have a column with customer name, customer address, customer mobile number, customer location. Okay, so most of the data that we want to analyze is in form of a table or Excel sheet or a CSV file. CSV file also captures this data with comma separated columns and rows. So now we're going to shift our attention to read those type of files. Okay, so let's try that. So first, let me create data which looks like a table. And to do that, I'm going to use our data structure called dictionary. Remember, dictionary resembles with a table. It has keys. Keys you can imagine as column names. And you can have lists as values. They will work as individual cell. Okay, so let's try that. I have already written a code to save some time. So I have already created this dictionary. I'm putting it in the chat window for the people who are coding along with me. So what I'm doing, very simple thing. I'm creating a dictionary called data because I want to read, write data now in a table format, not only simple lines. Okay, so this dictionary has key as name. You can imagine it's as a column name, and these are the names: profession, experience, and education. So if you run it, the data will look like this. So you can imagine it as one column, another column, another column, another column. Okay, and then now I have this data. I will try to write this data in a CSV format, in a JSON, in Excel, in HTML, not by using our raw commands, because we have learned now, we have knowledge of these. We now are going to use the pandas libraries to write in a very easy manner this data to these files. Now, pandas uses a very important data structure called data frame. Okay, so everything that you do in pandas related to a table is in form of a data frame. Data frame is nothing. You can imagine data frame as a table with column names, with rows, with cells, and so on. JSON is a format, Stephen, which use JavaScript, format only. But this is a very popular format to move data from one platform to another, because there is a very less chance that the data gets corrupted if you move it using JSON files. Okay, so first, we're going to change this dictionary to a data frame, because pandas only recognizes data frame. All its commands uses data frames only. So my first attempt will be to change this dictionary to a data frame. And for that, I'm going to use a very simple command. I'm going to just simply say PD. PD is my pandas library. I'm going to use its method called data frame. So convert my data from this dictionary to a data frame. And I'm going to store it in a variable, which is, I'm calling it df, a data frame. And if you check the type of df, it will say it's a data frame. Okay, and people, don't worry, we will teach you this data frame and pandas library in detail later also. Today I'm just giving you its basic commands. Okay, so now I have stored my data in form of a data frame. Let me check how this data frame looks like. So I'm just going to write df, run it, and data frame is so cool. It automatically gives us such a nice presentation of the data, like an Excel file. Name was the key, so it is the column name, profession, experience, and education. Okay, let's say we want to read the first line, second line. Remember, we wrote 10 lines code to do that. It is very easy to be done here. Okay, again, this will be taught to you extensively. I'm just going to tell you a couple of commands to do that. So if you want to get only one column, you can do it with df, then in square brackets, you put the name of that column, and it's going to give you that column. Okay, by default, data frame gives implicit indexing to the rows. So it's a 0th row, first row, second row, third row. For rows, you do not, the indexing does not work. For indexing, there is some other commands, lock, ilock, which will be taught to you later. Right now, I just want to tell you the slicing works. Okay, so if you want to get, let's say, the second line, you can write it, start from second, go till third, do not include third, that automatically applies. So it's gonna return to you the second line. Second line means at the second index, second index. Okay, so remember, our 10-line code has been converted like this to a 1-line code. Okay, so now let's try to save this data in a CSV file, read from it, as a JSON file, read from it, and do all of that. So let's first try with CSV file. Okay, So people remember, we have stored our data in a data frame. So how I can write this data to a CSV file? Very easy. Again, no write lines, nothing. Okay, we can do it very easily with this command. PD, again, we're going to use pandas library, PD dot to CSV. To CSV means go write. Oh, I'm sorry, not pd.csv people, sorry. DF, remember DF is our data. Write this data to a CSV file, df.tocsv, and I'm giving it a name, emp.csv. It's going to write in my current directory. If you want to write it in any other directory, you can give the path name like this also. Yes, Naisha. df23, remember? We used to do slicing in lists. Okay, 2, 3 was what? Start from second, go till third, do not include third. So here, when I give this, it is going row wise. So I'm saying start with second line, go till third line, but do not include third. That is why it is giving me the second line. The same slicing concept, remember? If I don't give it like this, it's going to go to the end and it's going to give me everything starting from second. df2 will not work, Punisher. For that, you have to give something like df.lock, ilock. That's how data frames are designed, and for which we're gonna teach you later. But right now, my motive is to show you how you can get one column out of it, one row out of it, and these are the commands to do that. df2 will not work. Yes, index starts from 0. Okay, you can do something like this also, people. df1 3. Can somebody tell me what will this give me? df1 3. Yes, so 1 is this line and third is the third column. So this is a 0th column, first column, second column, third column. So it's going to return me BS. Oops. Oh, so it doesn't work. Its indexing works a little different. I think you have to give df.ilock, something like that. And you're going to learn about that later. So don't worry. Okay, so don't worry about this thing. I don't want you confused. I don't want you to get confused. So just remember this thing to get a line out of the whole data frame. Okay, the indexing works a little different in data frame, and we will be teaching you that in detail. Right now, just remember these two commands. This is to get a particular column. This is to get a particular row. Okay, great. So let's move ahead, people. So what I was teaching you, to save data to a CSV, to write to a CSV file, and this is how you can do it. Okay, let me create this file in my current directory only. Okay, and run it. No error, data has been written to a CSV file. And if you look at my file explorer, emp.csv has been created. Let's read from it as we have written in it. Okay, and how you can read CSV file, any CSV file. Again, very easy, one-line code. No, Sandeep, items work with dictionary. Okay, so lock and ilock are the commands which we're going to teach you later. So don't worry. Okay, so we're going to use a command called pd.readcsv. Okay, pd.read CSV, and we're gonna read this file. It's in my current directory, so I'm just saying pd.read CSV, and I have to save it in a data frame. Let me call it CSV data, and then just look at the CSV data. Again, everything looks fine except this one thing. So what is happening here? When I am writing this data frame to this CSV file, it is taking this indexing also as a column. Because it doesn't have a column name, it is naming it unnamed and taking it as a column also, which is not true in my case. This was not my column, this was just the index. So I don't want that. So what I can tell it, that while writing to this file, okay, so if you look at its help, it has a, it has a parameter called index. So I will say index is true by default, so it takes it as a column. I will tell it make index as false, so that it doesn't take this index as a column. I'll run it again, this command, read it again, and now I'm fine. Poonam, try for your particular question, try a library called chardet, CHARDET. Just search for it and you will find a code how to read a file which has some special characters where the encoding is different from the default. CHARDET. Use this library, chardet. Again, it's only for Poonam, not for everybody else. No, read will not work, Sushil. Read will not work. So if you look at pd.r and then tab, these are the methods available in pandas. Read clipboard, CSV, Excel, Feather, I don't know, so many other formats. So read is not available. Sushil, hope this works. Okay, great. Okay, so you know how to write to a CSV file, how to read from a CSV file with one-line commands. Okay, let's try the same thing for Excel file. Okay, so Excel file. Let's try that again. Same thing. First, write to an Excel file. Again, we're going to use the command which df.toExcel. Before it was to CSV, now it is to Excel. Oh, okay. So people, what happened when I did not have index is equal to false? Okay, it was taking this column as this index of rows as a column. Okay, so when I ran this, it was taking this column as an index. I did not want that. This was just an index. This was not a column. So if you do not want that, you have to just simply say, sorry. Index is equal to false. Do not take this column, this index as a column. Index is equal to false while writing to the file, and then while reading, you will get the data. Punya, I will tell you, will tell you later how you can change the column names. Okay, so let's move forward, people. Let's do the exact same thing. Let's write this data frame to an Excel file now. Instead of CSV, to Excel. Let's call it emp.excelSX. Okay, and I have to give again index is equal to false. Okay, and you can also in Excel, people, you can give a sheet name. Remember, by default, the sheet names are sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3 in Excel. you can give it your own sheet name also. Okay. Oh, sorry, it's sheet name, not sheet. If you want, you can look at its help. It has a sheet name. Run it. So the file has been created, emp.xlsx. If you open it, you will see that this data is written in an Excel file and the sheet name is emp data. Okay, so let's read this file. Again, remember, how did we read CSV file? pd.read CSV. How will we read an Excel file? pd.read xlx. Oh, not XLS, sorry, it's Excel. And then emp.xlsx. And you can read a particular sheet also. Here, there's only one sheet, but if you have multiple sheets, you can read a particular sheet also. Save it in a data frame. Let's call it XLS data and then XLS data. Finally, to a JSON file, everything will remain same. Only you have to change the commands a little bit. Okay, so write to a JSON file. JSON files format is nested dictionaries. It writes the data in nested dictionaries. So again, df.toJSON emp.json. Here you need not to give index anything. JSON format does not look at the index. So index is equal to false, no need to give. If you look at its help, also there is no index is equal to, oh, there is index, but here you need not to give index. It doesn't look at the index. Okay, so write it. And if you look at emp.json, it creates file like this. Okay, like in nested dictionaries. Okay, this is a JSON format. And again, you can read from it. How? We've been using read underscore CSV, read underscore Excel. Similarly, you can read JSON file. Read it in JSON data frame. Yes, if you have not heard about JSON file, don't worry. It's just a format to move files from one place to another. How to write data into different sheets of same workbook? Same way, right? So you have written this line, you can write another line here. So same data, you can write emp duplicate data sheet name also. Simriti, hope this helps. Okay, so then the similar way you can write to HTML file, to HTML, read HTML, but for HTML file, I want to show you something else, which is interesting. Okay, so let's say instead of writing to our own HTML file and reading from it, let's try to read somebody else's HTML file. And you know that all the web pages, all the websites, they use HTML files. Am I right? Okay, so PRM, when we are reading Excel file, if you want to read from a specific sheet, you give the sheet name. Otherwise, it's going to take the default sheet name, which is okay. So which is, if there is only one sheet, so it's going to take that sheet. No need to give the sheet name. But if there are multiple sheets and you want to read a particular sheet name, then only you give. Here, because there is only one sheet, I need not to give this also. I gave it just to show it to you that you can do this also. You can avoid giving this extra argument. Okay, so people, let's try to read an HTML file from the web. Okay, and it's also called web scraping. Web scraping is a whole different area, but I will just give you a glimpse of it. Okay, so let's say there is a URL, there is a website. Okay, and I'm saving that website's name, that HTML page, in a variable called URL. Okay, so let me say this. I'm going to paste this command in the chat window also. Let's first look at this URL. So this HTML file is on Yahoo Finance website. Okay, this is an HTML file. It has so many things. Okay, but I'm interested in this data, which is stored in form of table. So read HTML can read data only from this table. This is how read HTML is designed. It can only read data from a tag called table. You know, in HTML, everything is written in tags. Okay, and table is the tag that is used to write data in form of a table. Then it has, I think, tr tag, td tag for rows, columns, and cells. So if you look at the source of this page, of this HTML page, and let's say search for a tag called table. So this is the table tag that you get. So here it is written the name of all of its employees, its founders and all of that. So read HTML command searches for table tag and then read data from there. Okay, so let's try to read it. It's going to read this column, give it a name, column name, title, pay, and it's going to just pick up this data. Let's try that. Okay, so I am saved this HTML page website, the location, in a variable called URL. And then what I'm doing, people, I am reading from this web page. How can I do it? It's very simple. Again, pd.read HTML, and then I'm passing this URL to it, and I'm saving this data to something called Tesla, variable called Tesla. Okay, let's read it. And then let's look at what is in Tesla. Oops, I didn't run it. So it's going to take a few seconds to read the data, and it has read the data successfully. But it is not giving this in a very nice manner, because it is reading this data in form of a series and not as a data frame. So a quick modification again for that is you run this command pd.concat. So it has read data in form of different columns. If you want to put all these columns together, you have to do pd.concat and pass these different columns to it, and then save it in a data frame. And then read that data frame. Isn't this cool? Shreya, it will only fetch the first table tag. If you have multiple table tags, you have to build some kind of for loop to read all the tables. By default, it fetches only the first table tag. No, Satya, I have tried that. It didn't work. The best way is to concatenate all these different columns together using pd.concat. Yes, you can use any URL which has a table tag, Shashank. Any URL which has a table tag. You can try it, Siva. I tried different things. It didn't work out. For me, pd.concat works the best. I know there must be some other ways also. This is, I find the most, the easiest way. Can we make it into CSV? Yes. You know, this is a data frame now. You can write it to a CSV. So what I'll do, I'll write Tesla underscore df dot to CSV and tesla.csv, and that's it. You have created tesla.csv. Where is tesla.tsv? Here it is. You can do, once it is in data frame, you can save it in a CSV, save it in Excel, save it a JSON. I have told you. So once it is in data frame, you can do whatever you want. Table tag, people, table tag. It looks for read HTML, looks for a table tag, this table tag. Satya, if web page has multiple table tags, you know, you have to probably write a for loop, search for it. That's a homework. I think you have to write a for loop and then read table again and again and save it in different data frames. No, Rachin, that's a homework. Okay. Simriti is trying to write the data into 2 sheets. Okay, let me give it a try. So let's try this. I'm writing the same data, but in 2 different sheets. Let's try it. And then let's look at emp.xls, people. Oh, emp.duplicate data. So it has, okay. Sheet name this. Okay. So it is overwriting. Okay. Okay, so please read this. It's saying to write to multiple sheet, it is necessary to create an Excel writer object with a target file name. So, you know, just study on this thing, Simriti. It's not that simple. So you have to create something else, Excel writer. So documentation has been provided. So just follow this. Okay, great. So this was how to read data from a HTML file. Okay, the last thing for today, people, I'm gonna try to extract data from a Kaggle website. I'll download a data set from a Kaggle website and then try to read that data, load that data file into my notebook and read it from it. This is the last thing we're gonna do. So for that, let me go to Kaggle website. And I know I have to fetch a data set. Its name is tips. It has information about how much tips was given in a restaurant. And I know that there are many tips database. It is coming from a particular library called Seaborn. So I'm just searching for that. It has given me this one. So let's see the Seaborn tips data set. Go there. Yes, this is the file that I'm looking. Okay, download it. It's going to download as zip file. I'm going to open it and then I'm going to copy it in my current directory. I already have a file. I'm going to replace it. Okay, so tips.csv. This is how you can get data from Kaggle website. Okay, so now I know that the file is saved in my current directory. I'm gonna do pd read csv and tips.csv, and I'm gonna save it in a data frame. Let's call it tips. You can give it any name, and let's call it tips. Let's see if it has fetched data. Yes, because there was so much data, it is not showing me everything, it is showing it like this. Okay, so you can read data like this. 2-3 commands which are mostly used when you start looking at the data are these. When you are having a very large file, instead of giving tips like this, it's a good idea to give it like this, tips.head. Tips.head will give you the first 5 rows, some sample of the data. So what is it? It looks like this is a total bill for a particular group. This was the tip given. This was the gender of the person who has paid the bill, whether they were sitting in the smoker area or not, which day was it, which time was it, and the size of the group who came to dine. Okay, so this is telling me this. Tips.tail will give you the last 5 rows. Okay, and again, people, all these commands will be taught to you in detail in one of the module. I'm just giving you a heads up. My main idea was to tell you that how you can download any data set from any website, read it in your data frame, and can start manipulating it. Okay, so there is another command called tips.shape. It's an attribute, it's not a method. It tells you there are 244 rows in it and there are 7 columns in it. Tips.info will give you the information about all the data. It will tell you that these are the column names, how many values are there. If there are any missing values, you will get it here. That there are 240 things here, so it means 4 values are missing. And the data type, this is a float data type. Object means it's a string, and int data type. All these data types will also be explained to you in detail. Okay, with that, I come to the end of the session. Okay, so yes, you can pivot this data, you can find the mean median mode of this data, you can create a bar chart out of it. All these things can be done very easily with one-line commands and will be taught to you. No, pd.concat have other uses also, Poonam, and as we go along, we're going to tell you its various other ways. You can just look at the documentation of this to get more knowledge. Santosh, is there a way to query how many table tags are there in HTML page? I think there must be, just search for it. Who create this data set? This data set was created, the tips, by the person who has created a library called Seaborn. Okay, so this is a library mainly used to create charts, and you will come to know about this in detail later. Shiva is saying, for me to get help, Shift tab is not working. Do we need to import any library? I don't think so, Shiva. Just search for it, that Shift tab is not working for you on the net, and you will probably get the answer why it is not working. In the meantime, you can use question mark and then write the method name. You will get the help. Can you directly download the zip file using pandas and then read it inside of Niranjan? There must be a way of doing that, but why complicate things, right? You can do it very easily by just clicking on it, and I'm sure that there must be a way to do that. Just search for it. Can we also pivot this data? Absolutely, Yash, and we're going to teach you how to do that later on. Sushil, by default, because Python thinks that you're reading very large files, by default, it does not show you everything, but there is a setting. I think there is something called set options. So you can set options, maximum rows, how many maximum rows you want. So just search for it, set options, and it will let you set options for this Jupyter notebook. Kamla, hope this has helped. Search for set options. You can run that command and set the maximum rows number. And for this notebook, it will show you those many rows. Yes. So how do you see the source code? So you just click on it, right click on it and view page source. And there you search for it. How do you search? Control F. Stephen, hope you have understood. View the page source and then search for table tag, Control F. Tips.info and tips.info both works. I don't know, probably I didn't check. Tips.info. Yes, and it doesn't, give you the right information. They must have created this for some other intermediate thing to do something else. Don't worry about it. This will not give you the right information. Go with this one. Attribute is there, right, but it is doing something else, not for our help. Poonam, I only know about these 4 sessions. To check with the upgrade people if there is anything else. Different file encoding, Abhijit, it will be taught to you in one of the assignments, because in one of the assignments you will not be able to read data properly because it is written in some other encoding, and we're going to teach you this there. Okay, people. So I think we have 10 minutes over. I'm still here for next 5 minutes, people answering your queries. In the meantime, let me launch the end session poll, and then I will share this Jupyter notebook link also. Line is not inbuilt variable, Stephen. I'm just moving the cursor again and again. For that, I'm using the for loop. All these things, line, current line, L, are variable names given to me. You spend a little time going through this code and you will get it. Okay, I'm sharing the link for this today's Jupyter notebook also. And people, I'm hoping that you have liked today's session. I have tried my best to keep it as simple as possible and still giving you all the necessary information, the in-depth information about these commands that we have covered. Okay, so people, if you have yesterday's link, please share it here. People are asking for that. Read HTML, Tesla, pd.data frame to Ian, pd.data frame, pass Tesla to it, and then it will work. Okay, so you can just the third line, Ian, after pd.data frame, pass Tesla to it. Great. How do I insert a coding panel, Binju? I'm not understanding what you are asking. I mean, a line for coding. A line for coding, Binju? Are you talking about cell? You can add cells, right? With using this plus command. Or you can run this command and can enter a new cell underneath it the same time by using Alt Enter. So I'm pressing Alt Enter now. It's going to run this cell and then create a new cell underneath it. Alt Enter. Okay, so people, I'm ending the poll and again, the last thing I want you, so this is a slide that I have given you. Probably it will not help you right away, but later on when you become expert in various commands of Python, you start reading data, analyzing it. These are some of the